Good afternoon and happy Lord's Day again. Today we're going to take a look at the next couple verses in James, chapter 1, verses 2 through 4. Count it all joy, my brothers or brothers and sisters, when you meet trials of various kinds. That is a tough command. Usually, when we meet trials of various kinds, things like we will see in the book of James, like poverty, things like being oppressed in poverty, and experiencing partiality in poverty, things like illness, which is something we're all familiar with. These are things to be that it's very difficult to be joyful in. Another one that we see a lot in the New Testament is persecution. You think about all the things that Paul goes through, and in the context of where James is written, likely Jewish Christians scattered abroad due to persecution, and yet he says, count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds. And why? Well, for you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. So there's something that God is doing through these trials. God is in charge. He is over all. And these are going to result with, or these are going to bring about a testing of faith. Now, I've really been benefiting a lot by this commentary on James by Douglas Moo, and he mentions that testing of the faith in this case, testing of your faith, probably indicates the purifying process. It's testing, it's purifying, and strengthening. Like it or not, when we're squeezed, what's in comes out. And it's an opportunity usually for seeing that we are not as strong as we would like to be, and we don't trust as much as we should. And so then that causes us to call out to God and say, Lord, help me. And we're going to see that in the next section. That God says, do that. Do that. If you lack wisdom, ask God. So this process, Paul talks about it in Romans 5 as well, that says that we can glory in our suffering, for we know that suffering produces endurance, character, hope. So there's this process that God uses to purify our faith, to test our faith, and then this produces endurance, steadfastness. And he says, let endurance or steadfastness have its full effect. So this is the idea of the effect to which it's directed, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. And I think a great verse to help us to see what's going on here is Romans 8:28 and then also 29. It says, and we know that God works all things together for good for those who love him and are called according to his purpose. For whom he foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his Son, that he might be the firstborn among all creation, among many brothers. Sorry, not firstborn in all creation. That's another verse, Colossians 1:15, I think. No, the firstborn among many brothers. God's using that to make us like Jesus. God is using these trials to help us ultimately rest in Jesus, rely on Jesus, and become more like Jesus, and experience and enjoy him more. So he's pressing us into the image of Christ, into further relationship with Christ, pressing out worldliness from us through these trials. And so we can rejoice in the sense that we know that God is using trials in our lives for a good result. So may the Lord give us grace to be able to count it all joy, knowing that God is working.